Hi class, this week's chapter and topic is on speeches and meetings. Now that we're past the midterm, we're just covering one chapter a week of reading and material. So we'll have fewer slides or lectures to watch. I'll just keep putting them out on Mondays, but then Wednesdays we have our AP style quizzes. So kind of the load is lessened so that you can be studying for those quizzes. So a little less reading and lectures, and instead studying more of that AP style book and preparing for those quizzes. Check those out, what those different topics are each week. So they'll kind of focus in different areas each week. And you can look those up then in your AP style manual. All right. The questions for those quizzes will be 5 questions about print or web writing, and then 5 questions about script writing for TV or broadcast radio. So let's jump into speeches and meetings now. This is a really important topic to cover a lot of the meetings and important events, especially for our civics, right? For our communities. Our citizens are very busy. They don't always have time to make it to that school board meeting or that government meeting, that city council board meeting, or to hear a speech when someone important, especially in politics, comes to talk about things. So these are really important because we can think of politics with a big capital P at the high, maybe national and international level, but really locally and for local governments and people in your communities, it's important to stay up to date with what's happening so that you can really be active and civically engaged with your community. So we help people do that by covering these speeches and meetings. And there are really 3 main types of coverage for these. First is writing the advance story, then covering the speech or the meeting itself, and then writing the follow story. So depending on how important it is, you might do all 3 or just one of these. Advanced stories alert readers to speeches and meetings that they may want to attend. So they'll report what will happen, when it will be, where it's going to be, and who will be involved. You want to keep these stories short, just about 4 paragraphs or fewer, just highlighting all these basic points. Now, when you're covering the actual meeting or speech itself, you want to prepare for it. You want to get background on the group or the speaker or on the topics that are going to be talked about or discussed at the meeting. So you want to get a meeting agenda if there's one available in advance, and also maybe you can get a text of the speech in advance so that you can know when there might be some great sound bites coming up to get for your broadcast, or you can even print that entire speech itself in the paper, or be sure that you get those quotes right. So those are some great ways to really prepare for these events. You want to be sure to learn the names of all the participants so that when people do speak, you know who they are and you can attribute them correctly with the right title and information. Find out whether you'll be able to interview the speaker or the participants afterwards. You want to arrive early, find a seat where you can see and hear as much as possible. Introduce yourself to the speaker or the participants if they don't know you. A lot of times in especially city meetings, there will be special areas for media that's up close to the front of the room and off to the side, so you can get photos and you can hear everything really well. So if you attend those, be sure to look for that spot. That's a special area reserved for you. And then also if you ask questions during the meeting or speak, they know that you're speaking as a media worker. You want to take detailed notes. Of course, we want to find those colorful quotes, information about the setting and responses of the participants and the observers. Identify people who may be affected by what happens at a speech or a meeting, or who may have other points of view, and seek reactions from them. Now, follow stories, these report what happened at a speech or a meeting. So these is following up on what occurred. You want to organize these stories in an inverted pyramid fashion, not in chronological order. That's really important. Don't write your story based on what topics were discussed and basically, don't write the agenda, right? Uh, People don't care that the Pledge of Allegiance was taken or roll call was taken. And also a lot of times in meetings, the easiest topics to get through are done right away so that they can start the meeting off quickly and get those things out of the way. A lot of usually the more important topics or the difficult ones or the especially important ones are toward the end because those will likely take longer to discuss. You want to vary the location of the attribution for direct and indirect quotes so that the story doesn't become too monotonous. These are meetings, they can get dry. So you need to figure out how to use some creative writing to deliver the facts and the information in a way that is going to be enjoyable to read. Provide transitions from one topic to the next. There might be several topics and things on the agenda. Eliminate jargon or technical terms that people won't understand if they're not a member of this group or aren't in city politics or government work, or at least explain them, which could also be really interesting. Check controversial facts. Give any person or group who's been attacked in a speech or a meeting a chance to respond. Be sure to get that from them. Include color through quotations and descriptions of speakers, participants, the audience, and the setting. Again, that makes it an enjoyable read. Now, for follow stories of meetings, you want to ignore those routine events like reading of the minutes or saying the pledge. News stories are not minutes of meetings. You can have a meeting brief, that's perfectly fine, but you shouldn't be, having those detailed minutes. You want to identify the major topics in the first few paragraphs, maybe in your lead even, you cover what the main topics are. If Definitely in your central paragraph, and then you develop each of those topics later in the story. Of course, don't cover topics that don't seem very important or relevant for your readers or listeners. Take up topics in the order of their newsworthiness. So again, that's that information ranking. And don't forget the why. Really include the discussion and background that would explain why a group acted as it did. Voters need this. Items that are discussed but not acted upon may be newsworthy too. So even having that discussion in the story is important. And of course, seek missing viewpoints. Usually for follow stories for speeches, the lead should state the speaker's central point. So again, they might cover a ton of different topics throughout the speech, but what's their main point overall? The speaker may state it in the middle or even near the end of the speech, kind of like the climax in a story they're telling. Organize the speaker's remarks in a way that explains and amplifies that central point. Listen for anecdotes, examples that speakers use to illustrate their points, and include these in your stories. Those can be some great details. Capture enough of that detail so you're kind of recreating the speaker's argument or their line of reasoning, what they're trying to say. And of course, do seek other points of view. The more controversial the speaker's message, the greater the need for those other viewpoints. So, in summation, speeches and meetings are really important. They can be terrific tools for people to know what's going on in their community. So it's important to cover them and get all the great information there, but also do some good storytelling so that the meeting information isn't too dry and doesn't overwhelm the reader or listener with a lot of maybe political jargon or city business jargon.